Hello BookTube, this is my December reading plan. I'm going to start with the surest bet for my December reading plan, which will be the manga that I want to read. So far in 2024, I have read a ton of manga. In fact, I read a ton of manga in 2023 as well. And so right now, the surest bet for me is manga. That's the genre that pleases me the most. So I'm going to start December with a reread of Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle by Clamp. Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle is Clamp's sort of portal fantasy mashup, drawing inspiration from many of Clamp's earlier series, as well as kind of having a concurrent crossover at points with a concurrent series running at the same time that Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle came out, called X-Holic, which is another series that I want to get to. In fact, I'm thinking I might make more of an effort to pick up more work by Clamp in the coming year. I'm also going to be reading the new and forthcoming releases of the various manga series that I am actively collecting. Starting with, get this set up, Volume 3 of Gokurakugai by Yuto Sano, and Volume 30 of sorry about this. Volume 30 of Eden Zero by Hiro Mishima, which are late November releases, and I should be getting them either at the end of this week or early next week. And then the December releases, which will be coming in towards the end of December. I have Volume 24 of Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami, Volume 16 of Zom 100 by Haro Aso and Kotaro Takata, and also Dandadan Volume 10 by Yukinobu Tatsu. I'm also planning on buying at least 6 more volumes of Bleach by Tite Kubo to read. And I'm also going to be reading and probably picking up Volume 7 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean by Hirohiko Araki. And I'm also going to want to revisit Orient by Shinobu Ohtaka and Tokyo Revengers by Ken Wakui. And hopefully I will have and I'm expecting a great manga month in December. I will also be trying to get to any number of series that I'm pick up, because I'm going to try to in December buy first volumes of older series and new series and start to pick up on some others. But I will talk a lot more about that if I make a book buying video or when I do my manga hauls, which will probably be several, although I haven't yet bought any. So that's the manga. That's the sure bet. Let's move on to the 2 piles of possibilities for not manga. So in December, it's usually a rather barren month regarding BookTube. There aren't many BookTube events in December. Last year, there were two events that tried to change it. Elizabeth of Bookinson Books and Roz of Skylendangling about the books created Remember December, in which participants reread what they've already read based on prompts. And then MJ of Reading This Life created an event in which participants give a second look at books that they have not finished. I don't remember what MJ called it, but I do something very similar in December that I call Bell Redemption December, because I very often give a second or third or sometimes an insanely more amount of bail redemptions to books that I've bailed on, which is my term for DNFing. So I enjoyed both events last year, and I'm not sure if either event is coming back this year. I don't think so, because nobody's announced anything, at least as far as I've seen. So I'm just going to do it on my own. Now, when I normally do some booktube events, I will try to do like a novel or fiction, poetry, drama, and nonfiction. And so that's how I'm approaching the two piles of possibilities here. Regarding the Bell Redemptions, they are from this year. Sometimes I will go a few years back for my Bell Redemptions, but this time I'm going to focus on books that I have bailed on this year. Even though in the Remember December pile, there are two bails. But since I've already read them, they count as rereads rather than bail redemptions. So let's look at those. So starting with Remember December, I have A Home at the End of the World by Michael Cunningham. It's been about 20 years since I've read this novel. It's initially set in Ohio before switching to New York. It's about two friends, one gay, one straight, who have a very complicated relationship as the years go by. I'm also wanting to reread The Rat by Gunter Grass. This is a very weird novel that I read over 20 years ago. And I want to give it another look. I tried it last year and didn't quite succeed. This is one of those that is a reread, even though my last attempt to reread it was a bail. Moving on to poetry, I have Map by Wislawa Szymborska. This is her collected edition of her poetry. Her selected collection, A View with a Grain of Sand, is one of my favorite poetry collections of all time. So I reread that collection regularly, at least once a year. Map I've read once, but I think I should come back to it. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Szymborska's earliest poetry, it's a little too social realist, and whoever thought that made good literature, I don't know. And I would also like to revisit the collected poems of C.P. Cavafy, which I really enjoyed when I read them a year or two ago. Moving on to drama. It's been about 15 years since I read Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Well, more than 15 years. By Edward Albee, so due for a reread. And I would like to have another go at The Night of the Iguana by Tennessee Williams, which it's been about 20 years since I've read, although my attempt to reread it earlier this year did not pan out. Moving on to science fiction and fantasy. Let me do a quick little renovation of the pile. I would like to get to reread Perdido Street Station by China Miéville. This is one of the great fantasy novels of the 21st century. And it's been a few years since I've read it. So it's due for a reread. And hopefully I have a good experience. My readership of science fiction and fantasy, even though it is my favorite genre of fiction, has been frustratingly poor the last few years. Although most of my manga, all of my manga, is actually science fiction and fantasy. So I don't know why strictly prose science fiction and fantasy just does not work for me anymore, but it seems not to. Hopefully, Perdido Street Station will buck that trend, but we may see. I also kind of want to have another go at The Blood Print by Asuma Zahanat Khan, or Asuma Zahanat Khan. This is the first book in the Khorasan archive. It's a quartet series that I have mixed thoughts on. I managed to finish the first two books. I'm not entirely sure if I actually liked them. I skimmed the third, and I've never gotten to the fourth. So maybe I should try again. If not, well, the donation box of doom awaits. And the same is sort of true of The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. This is another epic fantasy that came out several years ago. It's a 5-book series. I have the first 3. And I read this book, and while parts of it appealed to me, other parts didn't, and some character choices just, even though I'm assuming there's a payoff at the end somewhere, I don't know if I have the patience to wait that long. So, I don't know. I'm either going to have another go at it and check out the other 2 books that I have in the series, or, again, the donation box of doom. Moving on to history, I have 2 that I picked out to reread. My favorite books from 2021 and 2022. Or some of them. First up is Sunny Days by David Camp. This is about children's educational television in the late 1960s and 1970s. During this time, Sesame Street first aired, as well as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. In the 60s and late 60s and into the 70s was a golden age of children's educational television, including, say, Schoolhouse Rock, The Electric Company, and many local programs that have since faded from memory. And Weavers, Scribes, and Kings by Amanda H. Padani. This is a history of the ancient Near East, using the usage of cuneiform as a focus. This book is a joy to read. I really enjoyed it when I read it several years ago. So let's do a quick reconstruction of the pile. So, on to Bell Redemption December. Now, with The Rat and Map and the collected poems of C.P. Cavafy, there's a theme that is pounded in with my Bell Redemption choices. Starting with fiction, I have quite a few. My Name is Red by Orhan Pamuk. This is a historical novel set during the Ottoman Empire about miniaturists. I also want to give another go at Paradise by Fernanda Melchor. This is about two young men who have nothing better to do with their time than drink, smoke, and wreak havoc upon their gated community. The Words That Remain by Stenio Gardel. This is a novel about an elderly, illiterate man wanting to learn to read so that he can read the letter that his teenage lover, when he was a teenager, his boyfriend wrote him when they were separated. Kairos by Jenny Erpenbeck. This is a novel set in the waning years of the German Democratic Republic about a writer and a young woman who have an increasingly toxic relationship. Moving on to poetry, A Kiss for the Absolute by Shuzo Takaguchi. So this is a selected collection of his poetry that I want to have another go at. There is no drama in Bell Redemption. Moving on to science fiction and fantasy. Gardens of the Moon by Stephen Erickson. This is the first book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. And it hasn't appealed to me yet. And somehow or other has escaped the donation box of doom. And The Vagrant by Peter Newman. This is the first book in a trilogy about a vagrant who fights demons in a magically suffused post-apocalyptic Earth or some such fantasy world. It's one of those stories where there are certain things about it that appeal to me, but it also doesn't appeal to me. So maybe I should give it another go. I mean, I do have the rest of the trilogy. And if I don't get to it, then the donation box of doom. That may not stay up. So moving on to history. I have two new releases in history. So first up is The Fall of Egypt and the Rise of Rome by Guy de la Baudelaire. This is a history of the Ptolemaic dynasty, which ruled Egypt from the death of Alexander the Great to the death of Cleopatra VII, when Rome launched an invasion of Egypt. I guess part of the problem is that I've read enough Alexandrian history that I've already been here, and nothing new's really coming out. So, yeah. And finally, Vertigo by Harold Yarner. So this is a history of the Weimar Republic, which existed from 1919 to 1933. And again, much like with The Fall of Egypt and the Rise of Rome, I had the sense, particularly early on, that I've been here before. Because I have read several books about the fall of the Hohenzollerns and the early years of the Weimar Republic. In fact, I have 2 books on 1923. One of which I have to get to. But anyway. So that's Veil Redemption December. Let's get these back to how they were for the next part of this. Yes, okay. So, option 1 is to just focus on Remember December. Option 2, just focus on Veil Redemption December. And option 3 is a combination of the 3. So go through these 2 piles and read out what I don't want to read or what I can put off till later. Keeping in mind, of course, that my main focus is going to be on the manga. So let's get going. So certainly the main theme of these 2 piles is literature and translation. So I think I'm going to focus on that. And as much as I want to reread A Home at the End of the World, I think I'm going to put it off till June or July. And hopefully I'll still want to reread it then. Hopefully, but I think that's what I'll do. So, put you over here. So I think the rat is getting another go. So you can go. Almost had a bit of a disaster there. So the rat can stay. Now we go to the 4 novels from Remember December, Veil Redemption December. I want to have another go at My Name is Red and Kairos. And I think Paradise and the Words That Remain can hold. I can hold off on them. So let's put you over there. And I do want to have another go at A Kiss for the Absolute. So let's put you there. And I can hold off on map until April. But I do want to go ahead and do CP Cavalry because I've been waiting to reread him for a bit. So, right there. So, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and The Night of the Iguana? I think I can hold off on them too. Although, I'll hold off on Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and I'll try to get to Night of the Iguana. Okay, so now that leaves me with the science fiction and fantasy. So how do I want to do this? So for sure, I think I'm going to give Prettiest Street Station a go. The other 4, I think I can hold off on. And in fact, I think I'm just going to introduce the Malazan Book of the Fallen and the Coruscant Archive to the donation box of doom. Put you over here. So now, a history. So, Vertigo and the Fall of Egypt and the Rise of Rome, I'm going to hold off on. Until I've either... It's been a bit since I read or tried to read them, so they're not quite as fresh or what have you. So I'll hold off on those 2. I do want to reread Sunny Days. So let's put you on it, and I want to reread Reaver, Scribes, and Kings, but I don't think I'm going to have enough time. I mean, I guess I can have it on the pile, and if I get to it, great. If I don't, I'll come to it at another time. So I think I will attempt to get to these in addition to the manga. Now, I will, of course, report over the course of the various weekly reads how things go. But for sure, I am going to start December with Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle. So, the first weekly reads of December will be me basically just talking about Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle. Now, about weekly reads, I think, going to start filming those videos a bit earlier on Friday, rather than wait until Friday evening. But if you have any thoughts about that, let me know. Also, what do you think of this sort of building like a large pile of possibilities and then whittling it down? Sort of thinking about sort of the reading plan formation. Because if you like it, I might do that again going forward. Because I actually did enjoy, because I do enjoy making the plans. And I also really enjoyed thinking about what I want to do on camera. So, yeah, so I might do that again next month and, well, into the new year. So, something to look forward to. Anyway, BookTube, I'm going to go ahead and sign up for now because one thing about having a psychotic pile of books is that I'm going to have to put them in the show notes, and that can be a bit of a pain in the rear end. Anyway, so I will be back tomorrow with some more alphabet tag videos, which from here on out I'm going to do 2 a week. One on Tuesday and one on Thursday. There's also some reaction videos I want to try to get to, which I was going to try to do one today, but I'm possibly going to go over to my brother's to spend some time with the 4 children of the apocalypse and the new Bebe, although since she's now 2, she's not quite the new Bebe. And I need to come up with a new nickname for them, but I can't really think of anything with 5. So anyway, so yeah, I need to go ahead and sign off and get these books put into the show notes. So, and also I will leave links to Elizabeth and Roz and MJ's channels. So, a new BookTube until I see you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great afternoon and stay safe.